Picture this, a luxury yacht, champagne flowing, the golden Miami sunset, and then a kick. One brutal kick that sends a pregnant woman plunging into the Atlantic Ocean while her best friend films everything, laughing. Her billionaire husband watches her drown, doesn't jump in, doesn't call for help, just watches. Then the yacht speeds away, leaving her to die in the dark water. But here's what he didn't know. The ocean had other plans. A haunted fisherman pulls her from the waves at dawn. She gives birth in the back of a truck. And while her husband declares her dead and throws a memorial service, while he steals her $500 million trust fund and takes custody of her newborn son, she's building a case, piece by piece, recording by recording. Until one night, at his charity gala in front of 500 guests and live cameras, a dead woman walks back into his life. And what happens next? Let's just say, the ocean gives back what it takes. And revenge, when it comes, is ice cold. This is the true story of Elena Hartford, the woman who drowned, the woman who survived, and the woman who made sure the truth couldn't stay buried. Stay with me until the end, because the twist you're not expecting, it's not just about justice. It's about what happens when someone thinks they've erased you and you erase them back. If you're here for stories about people who refuse to stay down, who fight back when the world counts them out, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. And if you want more stories about survival, justice, and the moment the villain realizes they've lost, subscribe and turn on notifications, because trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's dive into the night Elena Hartford learned that some ghosts don't rest. They get even. The screen glows in the darkness. 8 seconds that will break the internet. A phone camera captures golden hour sunlight washing over a yacht deck. Well-dressed people dance with champagne glasses catching the light. The footage is shaky, vertical, intimate. Someone is arguing near the railing. A woman's voice cuts through the music. "How could you do this to us?" The man's reply is cold. "Us? There is no us anymore." Then movement, sudden and brutal. A foot connects with her bare chest. She falls backward over the railing, arms flailing uselessly. The sound of her body hitting water echoes even through tiny phone speakers. The crowd gasps. The camera drops, catching a flash of red dress before the video cuts to black. Within hours, the clip spreads like wildfire. CNN anchors furrow their brows over it. Fox News debates whether it shows an accident or something darker. Posts a dozen theories. Twitter explodes into tribal warfare, hashtags trending in opposite directions. Justice for Elena. Richard Voss is a monster. Fake news. The digital mob forms and reforms, never agreeing on anything except that they cannot look away. At a press conference, billionaire tech CEO Richard Voss wipes away tears. His silver fox good looks are perfectly disheveled for the cameras. "Elena is the love of my life," he says, voice breaking at precisely the right moment. "This tragic accident, I can't lose her. Please, if anyone has seen her, if anyone knows anything." He trails off, covering his face with his hands. The performance is flawless, but the cameras did not show everything. They did not show what happened after the splash. They did not show the woman fighting for her life in the cold Atlantic. They did not show her survival. And they certainly did not show her revenge. 6 months earlier, Elena Hartford stood in her marble bathroom, holding a pregnancy test with shaking hands. 2 pink lines. Positive. She was 32 years old, a former corporate attorney who had given up her career at Morrison & Steele when Richard convinced her their family needed her at home. Now that family would grow. She practiced in the mirror. "We're going to be parents." Her smile was genuine, full of hope she would later recognize as naive. That same night, she arrived at Richard's home office with takeout from his favorite restaurant. She paused outside the door when she heard his voice, sharp and urgent. He was on the phone. "I need access to that trust fund now. The audit is in 3 months. If they see the real numbers, I'm finished." A pause. "No, she won't sign voluntarily. We need another option." Elena's blood turned cold. Her trust fund, $500 million inherited from her father, Admiral James Hartford, a decorated Navy hero who had died 3 years ago. The money came from his pension investments in real estate holdings, carefully managed over a lifetime of service. It was supposed to secure her future, provide for her children, honor his legacy. She backed away from the door quietly, heart pounding. The next morning at breakfast, she tried to sound casual. I heard you on the phone last night. What did you mean about my trust fund? Richard looked up from his tablet, his expression smoothly transitioning from surprise to gentle concern. Sweetheart, you're being paranoid. Pregnancy hormones. I was talking about a client's trust. It sounded like, are you calling me a liar? His voice sharpened. After everything I've given you, this house, this life, everything? Elena felt herself shrinking. No, I'm sorry, you're right. She watched herself in that moment as if from outside her body, saw how easily she backed down, how quickly she doubted her own ears. Her fatal flaw had always been this, the need to keep peace, to avoid conflict, to make everyone happy except herself. Richard smiled and kissed her forehead. It's okay, baby. The pregnancy is making you emotional. That's normal. She nodded and said nothing about the test still hidden in her purse. 2 weeks later, Elena met friends for lunch at the country club. She was laughing at someone's story when a familiar voice called her name. Elena, oh my God, you're glowing. Morgan Price swept toward their table, blonde hair perfectly styled, designer dress hugging curves that Elena knew from college had not come naturally. Morgan had been her roommate at Georgetown Law. They had been inseparable once. Then Morgan dropped out second year, claiming law school was too stressful, too boring, too beneath her. Now she made a living as an influencer, posting luxury lifestyle content to 2.1 million Instagram followers. They hugged. Elena's embrace was warm and genuine. Morgan's smile did not quite reach her eyes. You're so lucky, Morgan said, touching Elena's stomach with manicured fingers. Perfect life, perfect husband, perfect everything. The camera in Morgan's mind was always rolling, always comparing, always keeping score. What Elena did not know was that Morgan had been keeping a scrapbook of her life since college. Photographs carefully collected from social media, articles about Elena's legal career before she gave it up, wedding announcements, everything Elena had that Morgan wanted, including Richard. That night in Richard's penthouse, Morgan arrived wearing a dress she had bought specifically because Elena had posted a photo wearing something similar months ago. Richard poured them both expensive wine. She suspects something, Morgan said. Richard's jaw tightened. Then we accelerate the timeline. The anniversary cruise. Private guests, middle of the ocean. A tragic accident. What about me, after? He pulled her close. You'll be the grieving friend who helps me through it. Then we'll see. Morgan kissed him, desperate and hungry. I can be her. I can be better than her. Richard smiled. He did not tell Morgan that she was simply a tool, as disposable as Elena. He did not tell her that after he secured the trust fund, there would be another tragic accident. He had learned from the best business sharks in Silicon Valley, always eliminate your partners before they can betray you. June 15th arrived with perfect weather. Richard's 80-foot yacht, Lady Luck, gleamed white against the blue Atlantic. They motored 20 miles off the Miami coast with 32 guests aboard. All of them were Richard's people, Voscor Industries employees, paid influencers, wealthy friends who owed him favors. Elena helped the staff, trying to calm her nerves. She had felt strange all week, some instinct whispering warnings she could not name. Morgan arrived last, making an entrance as always. She wore a dress nearly identical to Elena's, just a different color. Elena noticed and felt her stomach turn. By late afternoon, Richard called everyone to the deck. Elena thought he might have announced the pregnancy. Instead, he smiled at the crowd and said, I have an announcement. I'm in love. The words hung in the air like poison. He pulled Morgan forward and kissed her deeply, deliberately, obscenely. Phones came out immediately. Everyone filmed. This was content. This was drama. This was the modern world where nothing existed unless it was recorded. Elena stood frozen. The deck tilted beneath her, though the water was calm. She heard babble, whispers, nervous laughter. Someone behind her said, Is this part of the entertainment? She pushed through the crowd. Richard, what are you doing? He looked at her with eyes gone completely cold. What does it look like? I'm done pretending. Pretending I'm pregnant with your child. Morgan stepped forward, and Elena saw something terrible in her former friend's face. Triumph. He doesn't love you, Elena. He never did. You were just convenient. Morgan, you're my friend. I was never your friend. Morgan's voice was flat, final. I was your understudy, and now I'm the star. The crowd pressed closer, phones recording every moment. Elena felt 32 sets of eyes on her, all of them strangers suddenly, all of them witnesses to her humiliation, or accomplices to her murder. She would wonder about that later. Richard, please, can we talk privately? He shoved her away. Don't touch me. Someone handed him a champagne bottle. He drank deeply, liquid courage for what came next. Though Elena would learn later it was not courage at all, just the final dissolution of whatever thin veneer of humanity he had maintained. I trusted you both, she whispered. Richard's voice rose. That trust was worth $500 million. But I think we're done here. He moved toward her. The crowd instinctively backed away, creating a circle like spectators at a dogfight. Elena stepped backward, her heel catching the raised edge of the deck near the railing. What happened next took less than 3 seconds, but Elena would relive it in slow motion for months. Richard's face showed cold calculation. His $3,000 Italian leather shoe lifted, connected with her chest above her swollen belly with brutal force. The sound was a dull thud that cut through the music like a gunshot. Her body jerked backward. Her hands grabbed for the railing and found only air. She saw shock, betrayal, and terrible understanding flash through her mind in the heartbeat before gravity claimed her. She fell backward, the blue sky flipping to become the darker blue of the ocean rushing up to meet her. The splash swallowed her scream. On the yacht, the crowd stood in stunned silence. One woman screamed. A man rushed to the railing. Someone call the Coast Guard! Richard ran to the edge, his face a mask of panic. Elena! Oh God, Elena! But he did not jump in. His expensive shoes stayed planted on the dry deck. No one jumped in. They all just watched. Hidden in the cabin, Morgan filmed through the window. Her phone had been recording since the argument started. She whispered to the camera, "Did you see that? Oh my God, did I get it?" She checked the screen, smiled at what she saw, then seemed to remember herself. The recording stopped. Below in the water, Elena struggled. The impact had stolen her breath. Water closed over her head, filling her nose and mouth with salt and terror. Her lungs burned. She clawed upward through the green darkness and broke the surface, gasping, "Help, please!" But the yacht's engines were already roaring to life. She watched the white hull pull away, people still lining the rail like spectators at a parade. No one dove in, no one threw a life preserver. They just watched her bob in the wake like a piece of debris. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon. Elena tried to swim toward the distant shore, but it was impossibly far. Waves grew larger. Her dress, a beautiful pale blue silk Richard had chosen that morning, tangled around her legs like seaweed. Like a shroud, her strength failed quickly. Pregnancy and panic were a deadly combination. She went under, came up gasping, went under again. Underwater, her hand found her belly. She felt movement. Her baby was still alive, still fighting. That gave her the strength for one more push toward the surface. She broke through, screaming into the wind and rain that had begun to fall. But the yacht was gone. She was alone. Lightning flashed in the distance. Thunder rolled across the water like drums at an execution. She went under a final time. The camera of her mind captured everything in crystalline detail. The light fading above her, her lungs surrendering, her eyes closing against the salt and the darkness. The ocean cradled her gently, rocking her between life and death, as if considering which gift to give. Dawn broke gray and cold over the Atlantic. Captain Luke Brennan worked his crab pots with practiced efficiency, barely noticing the beauty of sunrise painting the clouds pink and gold. He was 55 years old, weathered by decades on the water, his face a map of squint lines and sun damage. A gray beard covered his jaw. A Navy anchor tattoo on his forearm had faded to blue ghosts. Around his neck hung a St. Christopher medal that had belonged to his daughter, Maya. Dead 10 years, 16 years old and drowned while he waited for the Coast Guard to arrive. 45 minutes they took. By the time they got there, she was already gone. Cold and blue and beyond saving. Luke had been a Coast Guard rescue swimmer once, retired 8 years ago when the nightmares got too bad. Now he ran Brennan Charters, a small fishing and tour boat operation out of a coastal town 40 miles north of Miami. Tourists in summer, commercial fishing the rest of the year. It was a living, barely. The radio played news while he hauled up empty pots. Coast Guard searching for Elena Hartford Voss, 32, pregnant, fell from yacht yesterday evening. Husband Richard Voss offers $100,000 reward for information. Luke barely listened. Rich people and their drama. He pulled up another pot, empty, cursed under his breath, moved to the next buoy. That was when he saw the debris field, champagne bottles floating like messages in bottles, a life vest, expensive women's shoes, and then tangled in the life vest, a body face down in the water. Jesus Christ. For a moment, he was back 10 years, seeing Maya's body pulled from the water, her lips blue, her eyes open and unseeing. He blinked hard. The flashback released him. He motored closer, hands shaking. Hooked the life vest gently with his gaff and pulled the woman aboard. She was blue-white, lips the color of concrete. Not breathing, no pulse. Luke had done this drill 1,000 times in training and failed the only time it mattered. His hands moved automatically, muscle memory taking over where his mind wanted to freeze. Chest compressions. Breathe into her mouth. The flashback tried to return. Maya's dead weight, the desperate pumping, the knowledge that he was too late. Not again, he growled. You don't get to die on me. He pumped harder, counted, breathed, pumped. His arms burned, sweat dripped into his eyes despite the cool morning air. Elena convulsed. Seawater erupted from her mouth. He turned her on her side and she vomited, coughing violently. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and terrified. My baby, she whispered, barely audible. Luke's hand went to her belly. Movement, a kick against his palm, like a small fist knocking to get out. Still fighting, he said. You both are. The radio squawked. All vessels, be advised, search continuing for Elena Hartford Voss. Last seen 20 miles offshore. Any information should be reported immediately. Luke looked at the woman, looked at the radio, made a decision that would change both their lives. He turned the radio off. His internal monologue ran like this. The Coast Guard took 45 minutes when Maya went over. This woman's husband is on every channel crying, but he didn't jump in after her. Rich people and their crocodile tears. She needs a hospital, but if he really did push her, and I call it in, they will send her right back to him. Maybe I am crazy, or maybe I am finally doing what I should have done for Maya, trusting my gut instead of the system. He started the engine and headed north, away from Miami, toward his cabin on an isolated stretch of coast. The woman drifted in and out of consciousness. He wrapped her in emergency blankets and checked her vitals every few minutes. Pulse weak but steady, baby still moving. At the cabin, he carried her inside like she weighed nothing. Adrenaline made her light, or grief made him strong. He could never tell the difference. The cabin was small, one bedroom, a living area with a wood stove, a kitchenette. Rustic was the polite word. Poverty was more accurate. He laid her on his bed, the only one, and piled more blankets on top. Started a fire in the stove, checked her vitals again, found a photo on the wall. Him and Maya, both smiling, taken on the same boat 7 years before she died. Back when he still believed the ocean was beautiful instead of treacherous. I couldn't save you, he told the photo. Maybe I can save her. He poured whiskey with shaking hands and sat in the chair by the bed, watching the woman breathe, wondering what the hell he had just done, wondering if this was rescue or kidnapping, wondering if there was even a difference anymore. 2 days passed. Elena woke occasionally, confused and frightened. Luke fed her water and broth, checked the baby's movement, told her to rest. She asked no questions. She was too weak, too traumatized, too deep in shock. On the television, Richard Voss appeared on Good Morning America, tears streaming down his handsome face. Elena is the love of my life. This accident, this terrible accident, I can't lose her, please. If anyone has seen her, anything at all. The host asked about the argument. Richard's answer was perfectly calibrated. We had a disagreement. Married couples do. But I would never harm her. She is carrying our child. Social media exploded. Hashtag bring Elena home trended. Morgan posted a photo of herself looking sad. My best friend is missing. Elena, please come home. The comments were full of prayers and support, but Morgan also posted to her close friends list a champagne glass photo with the caption, New Beginnings, deleted after 10 seconds. Not fast enough. Screenshots live forever. On the third day, Luke was watching the news when a new story broke. Detective James Cooper, lead investigator, stood before microphones. We are treating this as a missing person case, possibly endangered. However, her mental health history is concerning. Luke sat up straighter. Mental health history? The anchor continued. Sources say Hartford Voss was receiving psychiatric treatment for depression following her father's death 3 years ago. Leaked therapy notes appeared on screen. Confidential medical records somehow obtained by someone with money and connections. Patient expresses feelings of worthlessness. Discussed father's death. Guilt about not being there. The anchor's voice was grave. Was this a woman in crisis? In the bedroom, Elena stirred. She sat up suddenly, eyes wild. Where is my baby? Luke rushed in. Easy, easy. Baby is okay. You are okay. She looked around, panicked. Who are you? Where am I? My name is Luke. I pulled you out of the water. I need to get to a hospital. He turned the small television toward her. She watched her own missing person story unfold. Richard crying, the speculation about her mental health, the carefully constructed narrative that she had jumped. He's lying, she whispered. He's lying. He tried to kill me. I know, Luke said. She tried to stand. Her legs buckled. He caught her before she hit the floor. You are in no shape to go anywhere. I have to tell the police. Tell them what? That your billionaire husband pushed you? With what proof? People saw. People who work for him. People who signed non-disclosure agreements. People who have already told police you were acting erratic before you jumped. He gestured at the television. Where is the video? I see plenty of him crying. Nothing of you falling. Elena sank into the chair beside the bed, understanding washing over her like cold water. She was alone, legally dead in everything but name. Her husband controlled the narrative, the witnesses, the evidence. She had nothing. You need time, Luke said, to heal, to think, to plan. I can't just hide. You already died out there. Take the gift, use it. Elena looked at him. This stranger with kind eyes and rough hands and a cabin that smelled like wood smoke and old grief. She had no choice. She was a ghost, and ghosts, she would learn, could move through the world unseen, gathering evidence, preparing revenge. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Luke nodded. Good. First thing you need to do is rest, eat, get your strength back. That baby needs you healthy. What's your name again? Luke Brennan, former Coast Guard, current hermit. He almost smiled. Welcome to the land of the living dead. The first week was lost to trauma and catatonia. Elena curled on the bed in a fetal position, staring at nothing. Luke brought food she did not eat. He tried to talk. She did not respond. The television played news reports about the search being called off after 7 days. Elena Hartford Voss, presumed dead. Memorial service to be held. No reaction from the woman in the bed. But at night, alone in the dark, Elena's hand would find her belly. Feel the kicks, count them like rosary beads. 1, 2, 3. Still alive. Still fighting. On day 8, she woke gasping. Luke rushed in. You are safe. You are safe. I felt him kick, she said. First words in days. The baby kicked. Her hands pressed against her stomach. He's still alive. Real eye contact for the first time. Luke saw something rekindling behind her eyes. Not quite hope. More like stubborn refusal to disappear. I can't let my son grow up thinking his mother abandoned him, she whispered. Then we make a plan, Luke said. Week 3 brought complications. Elena was helping Luke clean up after dinner when the first contraction hit. She gasped, hand flying to her belly. "What's wrong?" Luke asked. "Contractions. It's too early." "How early?" 33 weeks. "He'll die if I deliver here." Luke grabbed his truck keys. "Hospital is 45 minutes. Hold on." He drove like a man possessed, truck rattling over coastal roads while Elena screamed in the passenger seat. Contractions came every 3 minutes. Then 2. The hospital might as well have been on the moon. "We're not going to make it," Luke said. He pulled into a closed gas station. Elena's scream filled the cab. "He's coming now!" Luke's hands shook. "I don't know how to—" "You saved my life," Elena panted between contractions. "Save his." In the back seat of the truck, under flickering streetlights, Luke Brennan delivered a baby. Elena pushed, screaming into the night. He saw the head crowning, impossibly small. Guided the tiny body out with hands that had pulled drowning victims from the sea but never brought new life into the world. The baby was born blue and silent. 4 pounds of fragile humanity that did not move, did not cry, did not breathe. Luke's heart stopped. Not again. Please, God, not again. He rubbed the baby's chest frantically, cleared the airways. Nothing. Silence stretched like the moment before a wave breaks. Then a tiny cry, weak but real, a sound like hope being born. "He's here," Luke said, crying openly now. "Your boy is here." Elena reached out with trembling arms. Luke placed the baby on her chest. He was so small, struggling to breathe, his skin mottled blue and pink, but alive, fighting. "Noah," Elena whispered. "His name is Noah." The hospital emergency room erupted into controlled chaos when Luke ran in carrying Elena, who clutched baby Noah to her chest. Nurses and doctors swarmed them. Questions came rapid fire. "Who are you?" "I found them. She gave birth in my truck." "Ma'am, what's your name?" Elena froze. Luke stepped in. "She's my niece, Kaylee Brennan. She's had a rough time." The doctor was skeptical but busy. Noah was rushed to the neonatal intensive care unit. Respiratory distress, possible brain bleeding. They needed to run tests, needed insurance information, needed paperwork that did not exist. "I'll handle it," Luke said, though he had no idea how. Elena passed out from exhaustion and was admitted herself. When she woke, Luke sat beside her bed, looking older than his 55 years. "He's in the NICU. He's fighting." She tried to get up. Nurses held her back. "You need rest too." "I need to see my son." They brought a wheelchair. Luke pushed her through sterile hallways to the NICU viewing window. Behind the glass, Noah lay in an incubator, tubes and wires connected to his tiny body. Machines beeped his heartbeat, measured his breath, monitored his fragile grip on life. Elena broke, sobbing, hyperventilating, the accumulated trauma of weeks pouring out in gasps and wails. Luke held her shoulder but said nothing. What could he say? That it would be okay? He did not know if that was true. "I brought him into this," Elena said when she could speak again. "My husband tried to kill us, and now he might die anyway because I'm too afraid to tell anyone who I am. If you tell them, Richard gets custody, hospital calls him. You lose Noah forever. But what if he dies and never knew his mother loved him?" Luke had no answer. They sat in silence, watching the baby breathe. In the waiting room later, Elena saw television, another Richard Voss press conference. This time he stood behind a podium, looking dignified in his grief. "It is with deep sorrow to announce we are holding a memorial service for my beloved wife Elena. Though her body has not been recovered, the Coast Guard assures us she is at peace now. I will raise our child, if he survives, in her memory." A reporter asked, "Mr. Voss, when is your wife's due date?" 2 months from now. "But I have been told, due to the trauma, if the baby survived the ocean, he may not survive birth. I am preparing for every outcome." Elena watched numbly as the news continued. In related news, Hartford Voss's $500 million trust fund will transfer to surviving spouse Richard Voss after a 60-day waiting period, as no body has been recovered. There it was, the real reason, the endgame laid bare. She was not a wife, not a person, not even a problem. She was $500 million floating dead in the Atlantic, while Richard played the grieving widower and planned his next yacht party. Elena wheeled herself to the hospital chapel. It was empty, thank God. She could not have handled a priest right now, someone trying to comfort her with platitudes about divine plans. She stared at the altar and let herself rage. I don't even know if you're there. Dad used to say you were. But if you were, why did you take him? Her voice echoed off the walls. Why did you let Richard do this? My son is dying. I'm dead. And the man who tried to murder us is on TV playing the victim. Her voice broke. I can't fight him. I'm too weak. I'm too broken. Screaming now. I can't do this anymore. She collapsed from the wheelchair, crumpled on the floor, all strength gone. Luke found her there, small and shaking. He knelt beside her. Come on, let's get you back. Just leave me here. I'm already gone anyway. Her voice was dead, empty, a ghost speaking from beyond caring. Luke grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. 10 years ago, my daughter went overboard during a storm. I radioed Coast Guard. They said, stay put. Help is coming. I waited. 45 minutes they took. When they got there, they pulled her out. Blue. Cold. Gone. His eyes were wet, but his voice stayed steady. For 10 years, I thought I should have jumped in. I should have saved her myself. But I followed the rules. I trusted the system, and I lost her. He shook Elena gently. I'm not losing you, and you are sure as hell not losing that boy. Your father was Navy. He taught you to fight. So fight. Elena stared at him through tears. How? I have nothing. You have the truth, and you have time. He thinks you're dead. That's your weapon. Something shifted in Elena's eyes. Not hope yet, but something harder. Anger, maybe, or purpose. She nodded slowly. Luke helped her back into the wheelchair. They returned to her room in silence. Outside the window, the sun set over the parking lot in shades of orange and red, beautiful and indifferent to human suffering, the way nature always was. That night, while Luke slept in a waiting room chair, Elena lay awake staring at the ceiling. In her mind, she began building a plan. Step 1, survive. Step 2, get Noah healthy. Step 3, destroy the man who tried to erase her. She did not know yet about the video, about Morgan's betrayal going deeper than she imagined, about the evidence that would eventually surface. But she knew enough. She knew Richard Voss had made one critical mistake. He had left her alive. And the ocean, that vast and merciless judge, had spit her back out with a purpose. 30 days after the rescue, Elena stood in Luke's cabin looking at a wall covered in evidence. Photos of Richard printed from online articles. Financial documents Luke had found through public records. A timeline of events written in her own hand. The cabin had transformed into a war room, its cozy rusticity now just camouflage for a battleground. Noah was stable, 5 pounds now and breathing on his own, but still in the NICU. Elena visited him daily, always as Kaylee Brennan, Luke's fictional niece. The nurses were kind but suspicious. Insurance claims sat unfiled. Birth certificates remained blank. The situation could not hold much longer. We need proof, Elena said, staring at Richard's photo. Video, audio, something concrete. Luke leaned against the doorframe. Your friend Morgan was filming. Where is that footage? She posted an 8-second clip to Instagram. It showed me falling, not the kick. Why edit it? Because the full video shows attempted murder. The edited version looks like an accident. So we find the full video. That was when someone knocked on the cabin door. 3 sharp raps. Luke's hand went instinctively to the knife on his belt. Visitors were rare this far up the coast. He opened the door 6 inches, body blocking the entrance. A woman stood there. Mid-30s, sharp business suit, press credentials hanging from her neck. Dark hair pulled back, eyes that missed nothing. I'm looking for Elena Hartford, she said. Don't know who that is. The woman you pulled out of the water 30 days ago, registered at County General as Kaylee Brennan. She pulled out a paper. That's your niece's name. Your niece died in 2012. Obituary is public record. Luke's face betrayed nothing, but his hand tightened on the doorframe. The woman continued. My name is Jessica Martinez. I'm a reporter with the Atlantic Standard. I'm not here to expose her. I'm here to help her bury Richard Voss. Inside the cabin, Elena sat hidden in the bedroom, listening through the thin walls. Luke had not let the journalist in yet. They stood in the doorway like fighters in a ring, sizing each other up. Why would you help her? Luke asked. Richard Voss destroyed my brother's company 4 years ago. Predatory litigation. Stole his patents. Carlos fought back legally. Lost everything. Jessica's voice was flat, factual, but pain lived underneath. He killed himself 2 years ago, pills and vodka. Left a note saying he couldn't live, knowing his life's work made Richard rich. She pulled out a folder, thick with papers. I've been investigating Richard for 2 years. Financial fraud, employee intimidation, non-disclosure agreements covering up harassment. But I can't touch him. He's too powerful, too connected. Louder now, knowing Elena could hear. But if his dead wife came back with evidence of attempted murder, that changes everything. Elena emerged from the bedroom. She looked different than her society photos. Hair unwashed, face bare of makeup, wearing Luke's old sweatshirt. But her eyes were sharp. What do you want? Elena asked. An exclusive. When you take him down, I break the story. And what do I get? Jessica smiled, but it was not a kind expression. It was the smile of someone who had learned to weaponize pain. A journalist who knows how to control the narrative. Someone who wants him destroyed as much as you do. They sat at Luke's small kitchen table. 3 people bound by grief and anger, planning revenge over instant coffee. Elena laid out her needs. Custody of my son. Proof Richard tried to kill me. My trust fund returned. And I need documented evidence, on-record testimony, and exclusive rights to the story. No story until Noah is safe. Deal. Luke asked the practical question. How do we find the video? Jessica's smile widened. Morgan's an influencer. Everything uploads to cloud. We get access to her accounts. How? I know a hacker. 2 weeks later, in a cramped apartment in Brooklyn, a man named Kyle sat surrounded by monitors. Early 30s, brilliant, morally flexible. He traced Morgan's digital footprint like a hunter following tracks. She deleted the Instagram post, but it auto-backed up to 3 places: iCloud, Google Photos, and Instagram's server. His fingers flew across keyboards. Need passwords, but she uses the same one for everything. Want to guess? What is it? Jessica asked. Elena Hartford, 2019. In the corner, Elena felt her skin crawl. That's the year I got married. She's obsessed with you, Jessica said. Kyle continued digging. Wait, there's something else. Her phone auto-uploaded to a shared cloud with her ex-boyfriend's account. They never unlinked it after they broke up. Jessica leaned forward. Find him. Tyler Banks was not hard to locate. He tended bar at a tourist trap in South Beach, bitter and broke. Jessica approached him during a shift, ordered a drink she did not want, and laid it out plain. Morgan cheated on you with Richard Voss. Broke up over text, right? Tyler's jaw tightened. Yeah, what's it to you? She still has access to your shared cloud, and there's a video in there that proves she helped commit murder. Holy shit. Jessica slid her phone across the bar, showing news articles about Elena's disappearance. Give me access to that account, and I'll make sure everyone knows you're the one who brought her down. You'll be famous. Book deals, interviews, the whole thing. Tyler thought about Morgan's last text. Found someone better, lose my number. He thought about 3 years together, ending in 7 words. He smiled, and it was not nice. Where do I sign? The video file was labeled MVI0842.movie, 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Kyle pulled it up on the main monitor. Elena, Jessica, and Luke gathered close, the cabin suddenly feeling too small for what they were about to witness. The footage started shaky, vertical phone video. The yacht deck in golden hour light. You could hear music, laughter, the clink of glasses. The camera found Richard and Elena near the railing. Their voices were clear. At the 45-second mark, Richard's words cut through everything else. You're worth more to me dead than alive. Elena watching now, tears streaming silently. Her on-screen self looked so naive, so vulnerable. She wanted to reach through time and shake that woman, tell her to run. At 1 minute, 20 seconds it happened. The kick. From this angle, you could see Richard's face, the cold calculation. You could see the force of impact. You could see Elena's hands grasping uselessly for the railing. You could see her fall backward and disappear. The video continued. Elena in the water, screaming for help. Richard watching from the deck, making no move to help. Just watching, letting her drown. At 2 minutes 30 seconds, Morgan's voice, barely audible over the wind. "Oh my God, did you get rid of her?" Richard's reply, calm as discussing the weather. "The ocean will." They both laughed. The video ended. The cabin was silent except for Elena's ragged breathing. Luke's hand was on her shoulder, steadying her. Jessica was already on her phone, typing notes. "That's it," Elena whispered. "That's everything." "We need authentication," Jessica said. "Metadata, forensics, multiple independent labs. Make it bulletproof." Over the next 2 weeks, Kyle worked his magic. 3 separate digital forensics labs examined the file. The results came back identical. Device ID matched Morgan's iPhone 12 Pro, registered in her name. GPS coordinates matched the yacht's location exactly. Timestamp was June 15th at 6:47 p.m. No edits detected. The file was pristine, untouched since creation. A forensic expert recorded testimony. "This video is authentic. It would hold up in any court in America." Elena held the documentation in shaking hands. "Now we have proof. Now we plan the release," Jessica said. But they did not know yet about Judge Thornton. They did not know about David. They did not know that Richard had moves left to play. The game was not over. It was just beginning. Week 10 brought Noah's release from the NICU, but it also brought impossible bureaucracy. The doctor stood with a clipboard going through discharge procedures. "He's strong enough to go home, but he'll need monitoring, medications, follow-up appointments." Elena, still playing Kaylee Brennan, nodded. "I can do that. You'll need insurance, legal guardianship papers." "I'm his mother." The doctor's face was sympathetic but firm. "Under what name? You haven't provided identification, insurance, or birth records. We need documentation before we can release him into your care." Luke intervened. "We'll get the paperwork." But both knew the truth. They could not register Noah without revealing Elena's identity. The hospital was growing suspicious. Time was running out. That night, Elena watched television news that made her blood freeze. Richard Voss has filed in probate court to have his missing wife declared legally dead after 60 days, citing presumption of death at sea. A legal expert appeared on the screen. If granted, Mr. Voss would gain full control of her estate and, if the child survives, sole custody as the biological father. Elena turned to Jessica, who had become a near constant presence at the cabin. "He's erasing me legally. We file a counter motion, prove you're alive. The moment I do, he'll know. He'll come for Noah." Luke's voice was hard, "So we move first, hard and fast." Jessica brought in attorney Marcus Blake, a civil rights lawyer with a reputation for taking on powerful defendants. He laid out the strategy in Luke's cramped living room. "We file 3 things simultaneously: emergency custody petition, restraining order, criminal charges for attempted murder. Bury him in paperwork." Elena leaned forward. "What about the video?" "We give it to the district attorney." Marcus hesitated. "But what?" "Judge assigned to the probate case is Rebecca Thornton. She's compromised." "How do you know?" Marcus pulled out photos from his briefcase. Company events, galas, parties. In each one, a woman stood near Richard. Amanda Thornton, the judge's daughter, VP at Voscor Industries, $400,000 salary. "Conflict of interest," Marcus said. "But no one has called it out because Richard is too powerful. She rules in his favor. He keeps employing her daughter. It's corruption hiding in plain sight." Elena felt despair creeping back. "So we're screwed." "Not if we go over her head. Federal charges, FBI investigates corruption." They refined the plan over 12-hour days. Step 1, submit video and evidence to FBI, bypassing local police. Step 2, hold press conference revealing Elena is alive. Step 3, file emergency custody with federal court, not Thornton's jurisdiction. Step 4. Public pressure forces Richard's arrest before he can run. When? Elena asked. Richard is hosting his annual charity gala in 2 weeks. 500 guests, live media coverage. We hijack it. Elena's eyes glinted. How? Jessica smiled. We give them a better story than whatever he's selling. But then came week 13, and everything fell apart. Elena received a letter at the cabin, forwarded through Jessica's office. From David Hartford, her brother. The letter was short. Elena, I know you're alive. We need to talk. David. Elena stared at the paper like it was a snake. How did he find me? Jessica looked guilty. I may have reached out, asked if he'd testify against Richard. Without asking me? He's your brother. I thought. Elena's voice went cold. You thought wrong. David Hartford was 35, 3 years older than Elena. Ex-Marine, honorably discharged after Fallujah. Their relationship had always been complicated, carved by their father's unequal love. Admiral Hartford had been abusive to David, demanding and cruel, while treating Elena like precious treasure. David developed PTSD and addiction. The military discharged him. He worked construction now, struggling to stay sober. When their father died, the will was read. Elena received $500 million in trust. David received $10,000 and a letter telling him to make something of himself. 3 years later, David was still broke, still resentful, still his father's least favorite child, even from beyond the grave. Elena agreed to meet him at a public park, Luke watching from a distance. David looked older, tired, wearing construction clothes covered in drywall dust. They sat on a bench with 3 feet of awkward space between them. I didn't believe it when Jessica told me, David said, that you were alive. Are you disappointed? What? No, I'm glad, really. He struggled with words. I didn't come to your memorial. I know, because I didn't believe it either. Richard cried too much, fake tears. Elena softened slightly. Maybe he was here to help. Maybe blood still meant something. Will you help me? Testify against him? David pulled out a folded document from his jacket. His hand shook as he handed it over. Elena, I need you to know something first. She unfolded it, read, her face drained of color. It was testimony filed in probate court, sworn statement by David Hartford. The words swam before her eyes. Elena Hartford struggled with the mental health issues following father's death. She expressed suicidal ideation on multiple occasions. She was jealous and paranoid about her husband's success. I believe she jumped from that yacht intentionally. Elena looked up. Betrayal was too small a word for what she felt. It was more like the universe tilting sideways, gravity reversing, everything she thought was solid revealed as vapor. You did this? David's voice cracked. He offered me $2 million. Elena, I was broke. I'm sorry. She stood. You helped him erase me. I didn't think you were really dead. I thought he was just trying to access your money. Not that he actually... Get away from me. David reached for her. She recoiled like he was on fire. Elena, please, get away. She walked back to Luke's truck, legs shaking. David called after her, but she did not turn. Luke started the engine and they drove in silence back to the cabin. Inside, Elena raged. She threw papers, kicked furniture, screamed until her voice gave out. Jessica tried to calm her. We can discredit him. Prove he was paid. He's my brother. A jury will believe him over me. Marcus on speakerphone agreed. She's right. Family testimony is powerful. This is very bad. Luke asked the question. What if he recants? Why would he? Jessica said. Elena's voice cut through the room, sharp as broken glass. Because Richard didn't pay him. If we can prove that, maybe David will realize he sold his soul for nothing. Jessica investigated, called in favors, tracked financial records, leaned on sources. 2 days later, she had the answer. David never received the $2 million. Richard's lawyers had drafted payment contingent on resolution of case. Legal speak for will pay you never. Jessica confronted David at a construction site. He was on break, eating a sandwich that looked like it had seen better days. She laid out the evidence. Bank statements. The contract's fine print. Richard's smirk in legal language. He lied to you, Jessica said. David stared at the papers. I testified against my own sister for nothing. You can fix this. Testify that he coerced you, that he offered money and didn't pay. Help us prove he manufactures evidence. He'll sue me for perjury. Or you can watch your sister lose her son. Your choice, Adam. David put his head in his hands. He was 35 years old, a decorated veteran reduced to being a pawn in a rich man's game. He thought about his father, about always coming in second, about the $10,000 in the dismissive letter. He thought about Elena, his baby sister, who got everything he never did. But she had not asked for that. She had not chosen to be the favorite. I'll do it, he said quietly. I'll testify. We need you in 1 week. The gala. David nodded. He did not know if Elena would ever forgive him. He suspected she would not. But maybe, just maybe, he could do one right thing in a life full of wrong ones. That same week, on day 6, Elena was watching television at the cabin when breaking news interrupted programming. Judge Rebecca Thornton appeared on screen, standing at a podium. After careful review of evidence and testimony, I am ruling that Elena Hartford Voss is to be declared legally dead. Her trust fund will transfer to her surviving spouse, Richard Voss. Custody of her surviving infant is granted to the father. Elena's phone rang. The hospital. She answered with numb fingers. Miss Brennan, we need to discuss Noah's discharge. His father, Richard Voss, is here to pick him up. The phone fell from Elena's hand. She screamed, a sound of pure animal anguish. No, no, he can't. Luke grabbed the keys. We file the injunction now. Marcus on the phone. It won't process in time. He has legal custody. Elena collapsed, hyperventilating. I lost. He won. He took everything. They raced to the hospital, 45 minutes that felt like hours. Elena ran through the halls, Luke chasing her. Security tried to stop them. She shoved past, found the NICU, froze. Richard Voss stood there, holding Noah. Time slowed. He turned, saw Elena, and his face went through a journey. Shock. Rage. Then, impossibly, he smiled. Hello, darling. I'd say I'm surprised, but I always knew you were too stubborn to die. Elena's voice came out strangled. Put down my son. Your son. According to the law, you're dead. This is my son. Security arrived. Ma'am, you need to leave. Elena lunged forward. I'm his mother. He tried to kill me. Richard's voice was calm, reasonable, the voice of a man in control. She's mentally unstable. I have custody papers. Please remove her. Elena tried to grab Noah. Luke caught her. Security surrounded them, escorting them out while Elena screamed and fought. Richard watched, holding the baby, smiling that terrible smile. In the parking lot, Elena crumpled to the ground, sobbing. Luke held her while she shattered into pieces. How? How do we get him back? She looked up at the hospital window where Richard stood visible, holding Noah like a trophy. I should have just drowned, Elena whispered. At least then Noah would have had a chance. Luke slapped her, gently but firm. Your father didn't raise a quitter. Elena looked at him with hollow eyes. My father's dead. My son might as well be. And I'm just a ghost. That was despair, peak number 2. The moment where everything seemed lost, where the villain had won completely, where our hero lay broken in a parking lot with nothing left but rage and grief. But sometimes that is when ghosts are most dangerous, because they have nothing left to lose. 1 week later, Elena sat in Luke's cabin in complete darkness. She had not eaten in days. The walls were still covered in evidence, timelines, photos, all useless now. Richard had Noah. The law was on his side. She was legally dead, practically powerless. Luke entered with food she would not eat. You need to eat something. What's the point? The gala is in 72 hours. We have the video. We have a plan. And he has Noah. Luke, it's over. He won. Luke left her alone. He knew this darkness. He had lived in it for years after Maya died. Sometimes people needed to touch bottom before they could push back up. That night, around 2 in the morning, Elena walked out of the cabin. Luke was asleep on the couch, empty whiskey bottle on the floor beside him. She moved quietly, took nothing with her except her father's Navy medal that Luke had given her weeks ago. She walked to the cliff where Luke had said he once stood, contemplating the same choice. The wind whipped her hair, the ocean crashed below, indifferent and eternal. She held the medal in her fist. You tried to take me once, she said to the water. Maybe you should have finished the job. She closed her eyes, leaned forward, felt the pull of gravity, the promise of peace, the end of pain. Don't you dare. She turned. Luke stood 10 feet behind her, fully dressed, clearly having followed her. Not sleeping after all, just waiting to see if she would do this. He walked slowly toward her. I know that cliff. I stood on it for 6 months after Maya died. How did you step back? I didn't. I jumped. Elena's eyes widened. Luke continued, voice steady as stone. I jumped, 30 feet into rocks and water. And you know what? The ocean spit me back out. Broke 3 ribs in my left arm. Coast Guard found me washed up 2 miles downshore. He stood beside her now, close enough to grab if she fell. I woke up in the hospital and thought, that bastard ocean won't even let me die. Then I realized maybe I wasn't supposed to. He looked at her. Your father saved 23 men in his career. He drowned saving number 24. You think he'd want you to quit now, after you survived the impossible? Elena's voice was small. I'm so tired, Luke. I know, but you don't get to rest yet. That little boy needs his mother. He doesn't even know me. Then let's make sure he does. Step back from this cliff, and let's go get your son. They stood there in the wind for a long time. Finally, Elena stepped back. Not because she suddenly felt hope, not because the pain was less, but because sometimes survival is not about hope. Sometimes it is just about refusing to let the bastards win. They walked back to the cabin together. Elena's phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text message. I have what you need. We should talk, M. Elena showed Luke. Who is M? Morgan? Why would she help me now? Another text appeared. Because he's going to kill me too, and I don't want to die alone. A photo attached. Morgan's face, makeup smeared, bruises visible even through poor lighting. Elena's jaw set, something hard clicking into place behind her eyes. Set up the meeting. This was despair, peak number 3, the lowest point, the moment before the turn. Everything that followed would be different. No more running, no more hiding. Now came the reckoning. The meeting was set for the next morning. Public park, broad daylight, witnesses everywhere. Jessica and Luke watched from a car 50 yards away. Elena sat on a bench alone, waited. Morgan arrived wearing sunglasses that could not quite hide the bruises. She walked carefully, like someone who hurt everywhere. Sat on the opposite end of the bench. The space between them was full of ghosts. Thank you for coming, Morgan said. Elena said nothing, just waited. Morgan removed her sunglasses. The bruises were worse than the photo suggested. Yellow-green fading to purple, days old. He did this 3 nights ago, because I asked when he would marry me. So you finally figured out what he is. I've known for months. Morgan's voice was flat, but I was already too far in. She pulled out a phone, old iPhone 8, cracked screen, held together with hope in a cheap case. This is my old phone, the one I filmed everything on. I told Richard I destroyed it, but I kept it. Why? Insurance. I knew he would betray me eventually. Everyone he touches, he destroys. She handed the phone to Elena like passing over a live grenade. Elena took it, hands shaking. We already have the video, Elena said, from Tyler's cloud. Wow. Not just the video. Morgan leaned forward. Emails, texts. His plans laid out step by step. He wrote me instructions. Make sure she falls backward. Film for insurance. Delete all evidence. Elena scrolled through the phone with numb fingers. Hundreds of messages. Richard's words in black and white. Planning murder like planning a business deal. And recordings, Bob Morgan continued. He told me everything. How he needed your trust fund. How he planned to marry me next, then kill me too. How women are disposable assets with expiration dates. Elena looked up. Why are you doing this? Morgan's face crumpled. Because I was jealous of you my whole life, and it turned me into this. She gestured at herself, at the bruises, at the wreckage of who she used to be. I filmed you dying, I laughed, and now I can't sleep without seeing your face. Tears ran down her cheeks, mixing with old makeup. I don't want forgiveness. I just don't want him to win. Elena stood, started to walk away. Morgan's voice called after her. That's it? You're just leaving? Elena turned back. Her voice was ice. You filmed my attempted murder. You helped him steal my son. You tried to take my life. I know, but you just gave me his. Elena sat back down. Here's how this works. You testify. You give every recording, every email, every text. You face your charges. You take your punishment. And maybe, when you get out, you spend the rest of your life trying to be a better person. Morgan nodded through tears. Will you ever forgive me? No, but I'll use you. It was not redemption, it was transaction. But sometimes that was all you got. Back at the cabin, the team reviewed Morgan's evidence. Yacht's eyes went wide. This is a RICO case. Conspiracy, wire fraud, attempted murder, obstruction. This buries him. Marcus agreed over speakerphone, and I can authenticate all of it. Metadata is intact. Elena leaned forward. How fast can we move? The gala is tomorrow night. FBI needs 48 hours to review. We don't have 48 hours. Richard has Noah. Every day he has my son is a day he poisons him against me. Jessica nodded. So we do both. FBI gets evidence tonight. Media circus tomorrow at gala. Luke asked the practical question. And if FBI doesn't move in time? Elena's voice was hard as stone. Then we make it impossible for them not to. The Carlisle Hotel ballroom glittered under chandeliers. 500 guests in formal wear sipped champagne and pretended to care about whatever charity Richard Voss was pretending to support this year. The event was a who's who of Miami power players. Politicians, business leaders, celebrities all gathered to be seen supporting the grieving billionaire who had lost his wife to a tragic accident. Richard stood at the center of it all, charismatic and composed. A journalist asked him how he was holding up. Elena would have loved this, he said with practiced sorrow. She believed in giving back. I'm just trying to honor her memory. What Richard did not know was that Jessica Martinez had contacted the venue's audiovisual company 2 days earlier. She posed as Richard's PR director, explaining they wanted to add a surprise video tribute. The AV company gave her remote access codes. Kyle uploaded video files to their server, scheduled for 8:15 p.m. autoplay. It'll loop on every screen, Kyle had promised. They can't stop it without cutting power to the whole ballroom. Meanwhile, Marcus Blake delivered evidence to the FBI field office downtown. Agent Brooks, mid-40s and skeptical, looked through the material with the expression of someone who had seen rich men escape justice too many times. So, this is extensive. We'll need to verify. Marcus cut him off. You have 24 hours. Tomorrow at 8:15 p.m., this goes public via media, with or without you. Are you threatening a federal investigation? I'm expediting one. Richard Voss will be at the Carlisle Hotel tomorrow evening. Your move. Agent Brooks looked at the evidence again, watched the video, read the emails, made a decision. We'll be there. The day of the gala, Elena stood in Luke's cabin, cutting her hair. Long auburn locks fell to the floor. She cut it short, pixie style, then dyed it dark brown, added non-prescription glasses, wore a simple black dress, the uniform of catering staff. Luke watched from the doorway. You sure about this? He thinks I'm dead. I want to see his face when he realizes ghosts can testify. She looked at herself in the mirror, barely recognized the woman staring back. That was the point. Elena Hartford was dead. This was someone new, someone harder, someone who had drowned and come back with nothing left to lose. At 7 p.m., she entered through the service entrance. The kitchen was chaos, staff rushing to plate appetizers for 500. No one noticed one more person in black carrying champagne flutes. She moved through the ballroom, invisible in plain sight. Across the room, she saw him. Richard in an expensive tuxedo, holding court, charming a circle of admirers. He looked happy. He looked like he had won. Her hands clenched around the tray. Jessica texted from the media area. Video goes live in 75 minutes. Stay hidden. Elena circulated, serving drinks, keeping her head down. Then Morgan arrived, still on Richard's arm despite the bruises hidden under makeup. Their eyes met across the room. Morgan froze. Elena shook her head slightly. Don't blow this? But Richard noticed Morgan's reaction. followed her gaze to a catering woman who looked somehow familiar. Something about the way she moved, the set of her shoulders. Elena turned away quickly, but the damage was done. Richard spoke to security. That woman. Get her name. At 8:10, security started moving toward Elena. She texted Jessica. I'm blown. Start now, so. Jessica in the media booth. Kyle, we're early. Go. Launching in 3, 2, 1. The screens around the ballroom, all 12 of them, flickered. Richard was on stage mid-speech, saying something about resilience and community. The screens cut to black. Then yacht footage appeared. Guests murmured confusion. What's happening? Richard's voice from the speakers, clear as a bell. You're worth more to me dead than alive. The ballroom went silent. Everyone watching now. The video showed the kick, Elena falling, Richard watching her drown. Morgan's voice laughing. Did you get rid of her? Richard's reply, calm as ordering coffee. The ocean will. The crowd erupted. Gasps, shouts, chaos. Richard ran toward the control booth. Turn it off. The technician frantically typed, I can't. It's locked remotely. The video looped, playing again. Guests pulled out phones, filming, posting, tweeting. The story was already going viral. No stopping it now. Richard grabbed a microphone. This is fake, doctored footage. My lawyers will... It's not fake, Richard. The voice came from the back of the room. Everyone turned. Elena stepped forward, removing her glasses. Her short dark hair was different, but her face, her eyes, unmistakable. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, whispers, gasps, phones filming everything. That's her! Elena Hartford! She's alive! Elena walked toward the stage, each step measured. Richard stared at her like seeing a ghost, which in a way, he was. She climbed the stage stairs. They faced each other, 10 feet apart, the video still playing on screens behind them. Richard recovered quickly. That was what made him dangerous. His smile returned. Elena, darling, thank God you're alive. I've been searching everywhere. You kicked me off your yacht while I was pregnant with your son. You declared me dead. You stole my inheritance. You took my child. I don't know what you've been told, but I'm not here to debate you, Richard. Her voice cut through the room. I'm here to bury you. The doors burst open. FBI agents flooded in, local police behind them. Agent Brooks leading. Richard Voss, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, wire fraud, obstruction of justice. Richard backed away. This is a mistake. I have lawyers. I'll be out by morning. Agents surrounded him, pulled his arms behind his back, snapped on handcuffs. Richard looked at Elena, rage finally breaking through his polished surface. You'll never prove anything. I already did, Elena said. Morgan stepped forward from the crowd. I'm testifying. I have recordings, emails, everything. Richard's face went purple. You bitch! I made you. You made me a criminal. Now I'm making you a convict. David pushed through the crowd. I'm testifying too. You already testified for me. I'm recanting. You never paid me. You used me. I'm done. Richard to the agents, voice rising to a shout. These people are lying. This is a setup. I demand my lawyer. Agent Brooks was unmoved. You'll have that right. Down at federal lockup. And they dragged him toward the doors. His last view was Elena, standing on stage, alive, victorious. The ghost who came back to haunt him. Elena approached the podium, tapped the microphone. The room fell silent. Every phone camera pointed at her. Jessica's live stream had 50,000 viewers and it climbing. My name is Elena Marie Hartford. 90 days ago, my husband tried to murder me. Her voice was steady, clear. I survived. My son survived. And tonight, the truth survived. She looked directly into the cameras. To every woman watching this who's been told you're crazy, you're paranoid, you're too emotional, you're not. Trust your gut. Document everything and never, ever give up. A pause. The ocean tried to swallow me, but I'm still here, and so is my son. And tomorrow I'm bringing him home. The ballroom erupted in applause, mixed with shock and confusion. But Elena did not care about their reaction. She cared about one thing. She walked off stage, out of the ballroom, Luke waiting for her in the lobby. "Let's go get Noah," she said. They drove through Miami traffic, lights and sirens from police cars heading toward the Carlisle fading behind them. At the hospital, the staff were watching the live stream on their phones. They recognized Elena immediately. A nurse approached. "Miss Hartford, we didn't know. We're so sorry. Where's my son?" "This way." They led her to the NICU. Noah was there. In his incubator, tubes and monitors still attached but breathing strong. Elena pressed her hand against the plastic. "I'm here, baby. Mama's here." A doctor appeared. "Given the circumstances, we'll prepare discharge paperwork under his legal name. Noah Hartford. You have custody." Elena nodded, unable to speak through tears. Luke stood beside her, silent support. That night, Elena sat in a hospital chair next to Noah's incubator. She did not sleep, just watched him breathe, counting each rise and fall of his tiny chest. Her son, her reason for surviving, her proof that the ocean could not take everything. 6 months later, the federal courthouse was packed. Elena sat in the front row, Noah on her lap. He was 9 months old now, healthy, hitting developmental milestones. His eyes were green like hers. His smile, thank God, looked nothing like Richard's. Richard Voss sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit. He looked gaunt, aged, defeated. Prison had stripped away the polished veneer. What remained was just a man, small and bitter and broken. Judge Marcus Reed presided, 60 years old, stern, black, with a reputation for fairness and zero tolerance for corruption. He read through the charges with methodical precision. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, the defendant orchestrated a scheme to murder his wife, fake her death, and steal her estate. This was premeditated, calculated evil. The video evidence is irrefutable. The financial evidence is conclusive. Witness testimony is consistent. We ask for the maximum sentence." Richard's lawyer stood, but his heart was not in it. Everyone knew this case was lost. "Your Honor, my client expresses remorse for his actions. He requests leniency." Judge Reed cut him off. "Remorse? I watched the video, counselor. He laughed while she drowned. That's not remorse. That's sociopathy." Richard tried to speak. Judge Reed silenced him with a look. "Richard Voss, you are hereby sentenced on the charge of attempted murder to 25 years in federal prison. Fraud, 10 years concurrent. Conspiracy, 5 years concurrent. Total sentence, 25 years. You will be eligible for parole after 20 years. Court is adjourned." The gavel struck, final and irrevocable. Richard was led away in chains. He did not look at Elena. She would not have cared if he did. Morgan Price's sentencing was separate. She stood before the judge in prison orange, thinner, older looking than her 29 years. Her lawyer explained the cooperation deal. Judge Reed was less harsh. "Miss Price, you are sentenced to 5 years for accessory to attempted murder, 3 years concurrent for obstruction. With cooperation credit, you'll be eligible for parole after 3 years. A pause. Use that time to become someone different. Someone better. Morgan nodded, crying. "I'm sorry," she said, looking at Elena. Elena looked away. Some betrayals did not earn forgiveness. They just earned acknowledgement. David Hartford's case was resolved quietly. Perjury charges dropped due to cooperation. 2 years probation, 500 hours community service. Elena attended his hearing but sat in the back. Afterward, they did not speak, just nodded once, in acknowledgement of shared blood and separate paths. Judge Rebecca Thornton faced her own reckoning, disbarred for judicial misconduct. 18 months in federal prison for obstruction. Her daughter Amanda was fired from Voss Corps under investigation for embezzlement. Their family name, once respected, now synonymous with corruption. Detective James Cooper, who had initially dismissed Elena's case, took early retirement. The guilt aided him. How close he had come to letting a murderer walk free. 18 months after the gala, Elena stood in front of a renovated building on the Florida coast. The sign above the door read Hartford House, Domestic Violence Support and Legal Aid. Inside, walls held photos of survivors, success stories, resources. Elena worked there 3 days a week. Her foundation provided free legal representation, safe housing, counseling. Funded by her trust fund, finally returned. She had money she would never spend in a lifetime. Better to use it helping others escape what she had barely survived. A woman entered, late 20s, face bruised, eyes hollow. Is this? Can you help me? Elena stood from her desk. Yes, come in. You are safe now. The woman started crying. Elena brought her to a comfortable chair, got her water, let her breathe. They had time. That was what this place offered. Time to heal, time to plan, time to become more than what trauma had made them. Noah's second birthday party was small. Just Luke, Jessica, and her daughter, Marcus, and his wife. They gathered at Luke's cabin, now renovated and bright. Noah ran around on toddler legs, laughing as Luke taught him to throw a baseball. Jessica arrived with a cake. Sorry we're late, traffic. Elena smiled. Perfect timing. They ate cake, sang off key, watched Noah smash frosting everywhere. It was normal. Blessedly, beautifully normal. Later, Elena took Noah to the beach. Different coast, calmer water. Noah wanted to go in. Elena hesitated. Luke saw. I'll be right there with him, Luke said. Elena nodded. She stayed on the blanket while Luke held Noah in shallow waves. The toddler laughed, splashing, fearless in a way Elena might never be again. Her hand unconsciously touched her ribs where the kick had landed. The scar was internal, invisible, permanent. Her phone buzzed. Email from women's prison. From Morgan Price, inmate number 847392. Subject: I'm sorry. Elena deleted it without reading. Some apologies changed nothing. Further down the beach, she saw a figure sitting alone. David, watching from 100 yards away. Seeing Noah play, seeing Elena smile. He did not approach. Just watched for a few minutes, finished his coffee, stood and walked away. Elena saw him leaving, watched him go. No wave, no acknowledgement, just awareness. They were bound by blood but separated by choices. Maybe one day that would change, but not today. Luke brought Noah back, dripping and giggling. Mama, I swam. You did, I'm so proud. Elena hugged him, getting wet, not caring. Again, Noah demanded. Elena looked at Luke. Can you? Always. They headed back to the water. Elena stayed on the blanket, pulled out a photograph. Her wedding photo torn in half. Only her side remained. She had carried it for months, unsure what to do with it. Now she knew. She lit it with matches, let it burn in a small, contained fire. Ashes blew away in the wind, scattering across the sand. Symbolic, perhaps. But symbols mattered when you had survived the impossible. The final shot would be cinematic if this were a movie. Camera-wide, beach at sunset. Elena sitting alone on a blanket. Luke and Noah playing in distant waves. Her face not happy, not sad. Peaceful. A harder peace than she had known before. Earned through survival rather than given through innocence. Her voice, a memory from courtroom testimony, played over the scene like narration. People ask if I've forgiven him. I haven't. If I've healed, I'm trying, if it was worth it. A pause. Look at my son. The ocean took everything from me, but it gave me back what mattered. My life, my son, myself. Another pause. Longer. That's enough. The sun set over the water in shades of orange and red. The waves rolled in, eternal and indifferent. Elena watched her son play, safe and loved and alive. She would never be who she was before. That woman had drowned. But maybe this new version, this survivor, this fighter, maybe she was better. Or maybe better was the wrong word. Maybe she was just real. Raw and scarred and true. The screen could fade to black here, showing text about domestic violence resources, hotlines, hope for anyone watching who needed to know they were not alone. But there was one more scene, one final moment. Prison visiting room. 2 years into Richard's sentence. The room was gray, institutional, designed to drain hope. Richard sat at a metal table, thinner, older looking than his 40 years. Prison had not been kind. Rich men did not fare well behind bars. A guard approached. Voss, you got legal mail. Richard took the envelope with hands that shook slightly, opened it. Divorce papers, finalized. He had refused to sign for 2 years. Elena filed anyway, got it done without his consent. The law, it turned out, was flexible when you had evidence of attempted murder. Attached to the papers was a photograph, Elena and Noah at the beach. The boy was smiling, healthy, beautiful. On the bottom, Elena's handwriting, "We're free now, you're not." Richard stared at the photo, hands trembling more now, his face a journey through rage, grief, denial, defeat. He had lost everything: money, freedom, reputation, son, and all because he could not control his arrogance for one afternoon on a yacht. He tore the photo in half, threw the pieces. They fluttered to the ground like confetti at a funeral. The guard watched, unmoved. "Visiting hours are over, Voss." "I never had visitors," Richard said. His voice was hollow. "I know." Richard was led back to his cell. 8 by 10 feet, concrete and steel. 23 more years of this, if he lived that long, if he wanted to. He sat on his bunk and stared at the wall, thought about the yacht, the ocean, the moment he decided his wife was worth more dead than alive. Thought about Morgan, David, Judge Thornton, all the people he had used and discarded. Thought about Elena's face as she fell backward off the deck. How he had expected fear but saw understanding. She knew in that moment that it was not an accident, that he had planned this, that she married a monster who wore a human face. He thought about his son, growing up without knowing him, growing up with Elena's stories, Luke's guidance, the legacy of survival rather than wealth. And Richard Voss, billionaire, visionary, killer, understood something true. He had won every game his whole life, made millions, married beautifully, charmed the world. But the one time he tried to cheat death itself, death sent him a message written in salt water and broken bones. You cannot kill the ocean, and you cannot kill someone the ocean decides to save. He lay back on the bunk, closed his eyes, counted years until parole like counting life sentences. 23 more springs, 23 more winters, 23 more birthdays for a son who would never call him father. The ocean had taken everything from Elena, but it had given her back what mattered. Richard had taken nothing but given everything away. His freedom, his future, his name, all for $500 million he would never spend. He laughed once, bitter and broken. The sound echoed off concrete walls and died quickly, just like everything else he had ever touched. 5 years after the gala, Elena Hartford stood at a press conference. The room was full of cameras, journalists, advocates. She was 37 now, older, wiser, carrying scars that did not show in photographs. "Today I'm announcing an expansion of Hartford House," she said into the microphone. "We're opening 20 more locations across 15 states. Free legal aid, safe housing, and counseling for domestic violence survivors. No one should have to face what I faced alone." Questions came rapid fire. She answered them with practiced calm. How was she doing? As well as could be expected. How was her son? Thriving, thank you. What would she say to Richard if she could? She paused at that one. Thought about it honestly. Nothing. He's not owed my words. He's owed his sentence and silence from those he tried to erase. After the conference, she drove to the coast. Noah was 7 now, in first grade, smart and kind and nothing like his father. He stayed with Luke today, the man he called Grandpa. Elena needed this time alone. She walked to the same beach where she had burned her wedding photo years ago, stood at the water's edge. The ocean rolled in, steady and eternal. She thought about the day she fell, the terror of drowning, the certainty she would die. She thought about Luke pulling her from the water, about Noah being born in the back of a truck, about Morgan's bruised face and David's hollow apology, and Richard's smile as security dragged her away from her own son. She thought about the video playing on 12 screens while 500 people watched her attempted murder, about standing on stage and telling the truth, about bringing Noah home. Some people asked if she ever wanted revenge, as if justice was not enough, as if 25 years in prison was somehow insufficient payment for attempted murder. But Elena understood something they did not. Revenge was easy, justice was hard. Revenge was a bullet, quick and final. Justice was a slow tide, wearing down even the hardest stone, reshaping coastlines, rewriting stories. Richard would spend 25 years learning what it meant to be powerless, to be trapped, to be at the mercy of a system that did not care about his name or his money or his charm. He would learn what she had learned in the ocean, that death is cold and patient and does not negotiate. And when he got out, if he got out, he would be 70 years old. No company, no fortune, no son, just a name that made people's faces harden with disgust. He would spend his remaining years as a ghost, haunting his own ruins. That was justice. Slow, thorough, complete. Elena looked at her watch. Time to pick up Noah from school. She turned from the ocean and walked back to her car. Behind her, waves crashed and retreated, the eternal rhythm of things that cannot be stopped. She thought about a question Noah had asked last week. Mama, why don't I have a daddy like other kids? She had knelt down, looked him in the eyes, and told him the truth. Age-appropriate truth, but truth nonetheless. Your daddy made bad choices. He hurt people. So he lives somewhere else now where he can't hurt anyone. But you have Grandpa Luke, and you have me, and we love you more than the whole ocean. Noah had thought about this seriously. The ocean is really big. Yes, it is. So you love me really big? The biggest. He had hugged her then, fierce and tight, and Elena felt something she had not felt in years. Not happiness, exactly, not peace, something harder and more honest. Contentment, maybe. The knowledge that she had survived, and more than that, she had built something good from the wreckage. Hartford House had helped 3,000 women in 5 years. 3,000 lives changed. 3,000 people who did not have to drown alone. That evening, Elena sat on her porch while Noah did homework at the kitchen table. The sun set over the water, painting everything gold. Her phone rang. Jessica Martinez. They still talked occasionally, though Jessica had moved to New York for a position at the New York Times. The story she broke about Richard had indeed won her a Pulitzer. Hey, Jessica said, did you see the news? Which news? Morgan got out today, served 3 years, got parole for good behavior. Elena was quiet. Jessica continued. She released a statement, said she's dedicating her life to helping domestic violence survivors. She's working with a women's shelter in Oregon, using her influencer skills to raise awareness. Good for her, Elena said. Meant it mostly. You ever think about talking to her? No. Even after everything she's doing to make amends? Elena watched the sunset. Some things don't get forgiven, Jess. They get acknowledged. She's doing good work, and I'm glad. But that doesn't make us friends. It doesn't undo what she did. Fair enough. A pause. And David? I heard he got married. Having that kid. I heard that too. You going to reach out? Maybe. Someday. When I'm ready. Elena smiled slightly. Or maybe not. Family is who shows up when it matters. David showed up late and for the wrong reasons. Luke showed up when I was drowning. I know who my family is. They talked for a few more minutes, then hung up. Noah called from inside. Mama, I'm stuck on this math problem. Elena went inside, helped him with fractions, made dinner, gave him a bath, read him a story. The ordinary magic of a life reclaimed. Later, after Noah fell asleep, she sat on his bed and watched him breathe. 7 years old, healthy, safe, loved. Sometimes she still had nightmares. The fall, the water, the drowning. She would wake gasping, certain she was sinking, certain the ocean had finally claimed her. But then she would feel solid ground beneath her, hear Noah's breathing in the next room. Remember she had survived. The nightmares were getting less frequent. Her therapist said that was progress. Lena was not sure progress was the right word. Accommodation, maybe. She had learned to live with the ghosts rather than outrun them. She walked to her study, where the wall still held photos from the investigation. She had kept them as a reminder. Not of what she had lost, but of what she had won. Her life, her son, her truth. On the desk sat a letter she had written but never sent, addressed to Richard in prison. She picked it up, read it again. Richard, you tried to kill me. You failed. You tried to erase me. You failed. You tried to take everything. You failed. I don't forgive you. I don't think about you. This letter is not for you. It's for me. A final acknowledgement that you were part of my story, but you are not my story. My story is Noah, Hartford House. The 3,000 women who didn't drown because I survived to pull them out. You're just the villain in chapter 1. The rest of the book is mine. Elena. She held the letter over a candle flame, watched it burn, let the ashes fall into a bowl. Tomorrow she would scatter them in the ocean. Let the water take these final words, this final ghost. She went to bed early, exhausted from the day, slept dreamlessly for once. Woke at dawn to Noah jumping on her bed. Mama, it's Saturday. Can we go to the beach? She looked at him. 7 years old, gap-toothed smile, green eyes bright with joy. This was what survival looked like. Not perfect, not healed, but whole in all the ways that mattered. Yes, she said, we can go to the beach. The beach was empty at dawn. Elena and Noah walked along the shore collecting shells, watching sandpipers chase waves. Noah ran ahead, fearless, laughing. Elena followed at a slower pace, letting the water touch her feet. She used to be afraid of the ocean. The therapist said that was normal, expected, understandable. But over the years, the fear had shifted. She no longer saw the ocean as her enemy. It was just itself, powerful, indifferent, eternal. It had not tried to kill her. Richard had. The ocean had simply been the weapon. And in the end, the ocean had chosen to return on her, delivered her to Luke's boat, saved her son, made her strong enough to fight back. She thought about the title people had given her story. The woman who was kicked off a yacht, who drowned, who came back from the dead for justice. It was dramatic, viral-worthy, the kind of story that lived on TikTok and Reddit and late-night talk shows. But it was not quite right. She had not come back from the dead. She had never died. She had survived, which was different, harder, more honest. Death was easy. Survival was the hard part. Getting up each day with PTSD and trauma and nightmares. Raising a son alone. Building a foundation from grief. Testifying in court. Reliving the worst moment of her life for strangers to judge and dissect. That was survival. Not a miracle, not a fairy tale. Just the stubborn refusal to let the ocean take everything. Noah ran back to her, holding a perfect sand dollar. Look, Mama, can we keep it? Of course. He hugged her leg, then ran off again. Elena watched him go, this beautiful boy who had been born in the back of a truck, who had spent his first 2 months in an incubator, who would never remember the man who tried to kill them both. That was grace, she thought. Not forgiveness or redemption. Just the simple gift of a child who could play on the beach without fear, who could grow up knowing his mother loved him, who could live a life unmarked by the violence that created him. The sun rose higher, burning off the morning fog. Elena and Noah stayed until lunch, then drove home. That evening, they had dinner with Luke at his cabin. He had renovated it over the years, made it warm and welcoming, a home instead of a hiding place. After dinner, while Noah and Luke played cards, Elena stepped outside, looked at the ocean one more time. The tide was going out, pulling back, revealing the rocky shore. Tomorrow it would return, as it always did, the eternal rhythm. She thought about Richard in his cell, counting years. About Morgan in Oregon, trying to rebuild a life. About David with his new family, trying to forget the old one. About Judge Thornton, disbarred and disgraced. About all the people who had tried to erase her and failed. She thought about the 3,000 women Hartford House had helped, and the 3,000 more they would help in the years to come. Lives saved, futures reclaimed, stories rewritten. And she thought about herself, 37 years old, a survivor, a mother, a fighter. Not the woman she had been on that yacht. That woman was naive, trusting, too quick to doubt herself. She had drowned that day in a way. What came back was something else. Something forged in salt water and trauma and the fierce determination to live. Elena Hartford had died on June 15th, but someone stronger had been born in the back of Luke's truck. And that someone was still here, still fighting, still winning. The ocean stretched to the horizon, dark and vast and full of secrets. It had tried to keep her. Instead, it made her stronger. She whispered into the wind, words only she could hear. Thank you. Not to Richard, not to the people who had hurt her, to the ocean, to Luke, to every force that had pushed her to survive rather than sink, to her own stubborn heart that refused to stop beating even when death would have been easier. She went back inside. The cabin was warm, full of laughter. Noah won the card game and Luke pretended to be devastated. They ate ice cream, watched a movie, fell asleep on the couch in a pile of blankets and contentment. And somewhere in a prison cell 2,000 miles away, Richard Voss stared at concrete walls and counted the years until a freedom that would mean nothing, surrounded by the ghosts of choices he could never unmake. The tide had turned. Justice was slow but certain, and Elena Hartford, who had been kicked off a yacht and left to drown, who had been erased and stolen from and betrayed, had done the impossible. She had survived. She had won, and she had taught her son that the ocean could not take everything as long as you kept swimming. That was her story, not revenge, not redemption, just survival in its truest, hardest, most beautiful form. And that, in the end, was enough.